Earlier this week, Joe Manchin proved himself to be Joe Manchin by writing in an op-ed that no, he's not gonna be eliminating the filibuster or even weakening it as he had implied earlier about a month ago that he might do. But then on top of that, he had an interview where he talked about why he is now so committed to bipartisanship. And it had to do with something that happened earlier this year. Watch this.
January 6th changed me, and I was very clear with everybody. I never thought in my life, I never read in history books to where our form of government had been attacked at our seat of government, which is Washington, D.C., at our capital, by our own people. Now, the British did it, but not Americans. So something told me, wait a minute, pause, hit the pause button, something's wrong. You can't have this many people split to where they want to go to war with each other.
Okay, so he changed on the 6th as a result of that, which is why he now has the exact same positions he's had for as long as I've been familiar with him as a politician, Cenk. It must have been a profound experience to change so notly.
Yeah, well, the second part of that is, let me get this logic, as it were, right. So a bunch of Republicans break into the Capitol to try to murder the legislators. And then you take out of that, I really gotta work with the Republicans. It is time to compromise with these guys who were trying to murder me a couple of months ago. I'm not positive you learned the right lesson. And third of all of this is horse crap. None of it is true. Joe Manchin is doing this, of course, to protect his corporate donors. And that is the entirety of it. The fact that our mainstream press cannot even bring up that question, let alone stating it as an obvious reason for why he's doing what he's doing, is just pathetic.
I have always said that Joe Manchin is as much a real Democrat as Elizabeth Warren is a Native American, which is hardly at all. But this is the one thing that does make him a Democrat, which is that he's a turn the other cheeker. Like the Democratic Party is their professional turn the other cheekers, to the point where it's like not even turning the other cheek. It's like no, take my other arm. And in fact, take my balls while you're at it. It's like, what? How many cheeks can we freaking turn at this point? They literally busted down the doors of the Capitol to try to kill y'all, and they're still like, oh, but you know what? Some of them are fine people, I'm sure.
The Republican voters don't respect that anyway. What are they going to vote for Manchin? Because they're like, oh, if you go to West Virginia and say somebody pushed you, and then you said, oh, well, then I want to work with them and I want to give them more. Would you respect that guy? Everybody in West Virginia would say, no, I lose respect for that guy, right? Let alone try to bust down the door of your house and try to kill you, right?
And look, I think there's a lot of nonsense in what he said if you take him at face value that he actually wants to compromise or whatever. Another way to look at it is that a bunch of people stormed into the place where he works and terrorized the politicians, and those politicians are now giving the people who terrorize what they want. That's basically what he's doing. They don't want any bills to pass, and he's gonna give it to them. I don't, and also, like he says, let's take him at what he says, and he says, oh God, how have we gotten in this position where people would be willing to do that? Well, don't just ask rhetorical questions, answer it. How have we gotten to that position? Why did the people in that crowd believe what they believed? The very specific actionable things that they believed. We don't have to speculate. We don't have to sift through desert sands. We know exactly why they believe all of those insane things, because they were told those things by Republican politicians and people on Fox News, Newsmax, and OAN. And your solution has nothing whatsoever with changing their behavior. Or if you don't reform the filibuster, does that mean that Newsmax is going to become a responsible member of the journalistic community, or that Trump will find a new respect for democracy, or that all of the senators that voted to overthrow the election will suddenly greatly regret what they did? No, he doesn't even claim that, and he certainly doesn't believe it. No rational person could. Instead, it's just, let's not do anything. So it can't solve the problem he says he's trying to solve, which is why we then are forced to try to come up with an idea of what it is that he's trying to solve. And I think that Cenk is right. It's that he doesn't want these bills to pass. He doesn't want the corporate tax to go up. He doesn't want any of this stuff to actually happen.
Yeah, so look, I gotta clarify the magnitude of this. I don't want anybody walking away thinking, oh, filibuster, I don't know, it's a technical rule, I don't know what that means. No, that means that we cannot pass any bills going forward, done. Joe Biden's administration is done. So I'll give you the example of HR 1. So that's for the People Act, that's voting rights. It's their number one priority, right? It has nothing to do with budget, so it's not reconciliation. And so it is a fact that every single Republican in the Senate opposes it, and vehemently, including any so-called moderates. The idea that you can get 10 Republicans to vote for the People Act is a joke. I mean, if Manchin says that, the reporter's next question be, Senator, why are you choosing to lie when there's not a single person on the planet who thinks you can get 10 Republicans to vote for an act that they deeply despise? So what, like, this is an obvious lie. So they can't even get their number one priority passed. They can't get anything passed if Manchin won't move on the filibuster. So there is nothing more important than this because it just it ends the Biden administration within the first 75 days. So, and that's Manchin saying, Joe Biden's not president, I'm president, okay? And I'm not a Democrat, you idiots. And by the way, he's not a Republican either. He's a corporatist. He works for the corporations who bribe him daily. And I get frustrated with the media. You guys know, you watch the show, but I look, people are always like, oh, well, there's nothing we can do. Oh, Joe, there's nobody in West Virginia that could win as a Democrat, and the people of West Virginia are so conservative. It's just nonsense. So is West Virginia more conservative? Of course it is. Like, that part is true, but the simpletons in Washington stop right there. No, go further. But they're populist as well. How about the issues he's talking about? He said this particular example that started all of this was Joe Manchin said, no way, man, I do not want higher corporate taxes, okay? And could it be because almost all of your donors are giant corporations and they gave you legalized bribes? Or is it that the people of West Virginia are so conservative that they really want lower taxes on corporations? No, that's absurd. We know the polling already. If you're a reporter and you don't know that the people of West Virginia don't want to protect corporations at all costs, then you suck at your job because you've never read a poll, you don't know a thing about West Virginia, and you let a guy like this lie to your audience on the regular, and you get paid to propagate his lies. Now, I'm gonna one last thing. I'm turning to the progressives in Congress. I ran for office, and the press hated me, and they said I was not civil enough. Well, they're right that I'm not civil enough, because if I had won, and this is why I ran, as apparently a futile effort as that was, but I gave it everything I had. The reason I ran is because if I was in Congress today, I'd be on the floor of the House giving a speech about Joe Manchin's top 10 donors, about how they're all giant corporations who want lower taxes. And then I would have a giant poll up from West Virginia right next to me showing the overwhelming majority of people in West Virginia want higher taxes on corporations, higher taxes, you liar, I would say about Joe Manchin. But is there a single progressive in Congress that's willing to do that? No is the answer, definitively no. Oh my God, that's your beloved, cherished colleagues. You would be so rude. Well, I wouldn't want to break etiquette, would we?
How do you really feel, Cenk? How do you really feel?
Because look, Helen, you're right, and it's funny, but at the same time, the reason is not to get angry. The reason is not to just insult Joe Manchin for no reason. They're so simple-minded in Washington. They're like, oh, you're just venting. No, how do you think you're going to move his position? By beseeching him? If you think that, just retire right now, retire. You don't know anything about politics. No, you have to cause political damage. The way you cause political damage is you put a spotlight on his weakness, that he takes bribes from corporations. Now they're legalized bribes, but they're millions of dollars. And every real person, including every real person in West Virginia, knows in effect those are bribes. And no one points it out because, oh my God, I wouldn't want to ruffle feathers, right? And so when you don't point it out, his poll numbers don't go down. The only way you're gonna get him to change his position is if his poll numbers go down. Either they don't, everybody in the Democratic Party, literally everyone in the Democratic Party that is to center and to the left doesn't know one thing about politics, or they're just saying, yeah, but it would hurt my personal relationships, and my personal friendships and relationships are more important than my voters. That's what's happening right now in Washington, and they hate me for pointing out things that are obviously true.
And the last final point, because we got to move on, is like, what is supposed to be rule number one for politicians is that they will do stuff for whatever ideology, blah, blah, blah. But mainly it's to increase their own power and to maintain their position. That's what they want to do above all else. And yet we know exactly where this strategy leads. It leads with him no longer being in the Senate majority. And it's not even gonna take a long time. It's gonna be like a year and a half, and they will lose the majority. He knows that if they don't do anything, that's what's going to happen. And yet he is following this path anyway. He is willing to sacrifice a significant amount of his political power for whatever it is that's actually motivating him. So you know it's gotta be something significant.
I don't know what you guys are talking about. And I mean, anyone who's been to West Virginia knows that everybody in West Virginia is just rolling in dough.
Exactly.
Yeah, they're so
rich in West Virginia. The average person is just so rich in West Virginia that they're like, yeah, lower corporate taxes. I can afford it, no problem. Increase my taxes. No.
Yeah, no, Joe Manchin said that they're not for a higher minimum wage in West Virginia. And first of all, the polling showed exactly the opposite. They're massively in favor of it. But look at how comical it is, and look at how much our press sucks. He says that the people of West Virginia living in their hollers are for lower wages, that they're in favor of lower wages for themselves. And the reporters go, oh, okay, I will write it down. People in West Virginia want lower wages. Joe Manchin is an honorable and respectful and wonderful moderate Democrat. And he has to do all of this because the people of West Virginia demand lower wages and they love corporations in the hollers.
Okay. I have said before that if you brought up the $15 minimum wage, if the $15 minimum wage took effect in West Virginia, you would bring back the middle class in the entire state of West Virginia.
Thanks for watching The Young Turks, really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.